Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a little while since I've put anything out. Things have been a little crazy around here, and honestly, I haven't had a lot of content to put out because I've been waiting on some parts, and they're finally in. So we're going to start installing those next weekend, actually. Max is back in town. He's got the shop, and it's going to be helpful to use a shop. He's got more tools than I do and stuff like that. And we are going to be working on the Del Sol, which I'm very excited for, but there's a couple of, where the car is so old, I'm nervous that I don't want to start pulling the thing apart in my driveway and not have enough tools to get it done. So it's going to be nice to work over there. So watch out for that video next week. And the Subaru's got a little bit that's going to be done within the next couple weeks as well. So I'm pretty excited to get both those started. So something I wanted to talk about today was a question that I've been asked a lot over the years. And that's, Scoot, should I go with an automatic transmission or manual transmission? And if you'd asked me a couple of years ago, I would have told you 10 out of 10 times, if you're looking for something performance-oriented, which that's what most of the people that come to me are talking about, you got to go manual. It's just, if there's an option for it, you got to go manual. That's going to be the most fun. There's nothing better than rowing through all the gears or smashing that third pedal into the floor to get that perfect shift. It's just, to me, it's intoxicating, and I absolutely love it. I really can't find a better way to enjoy my time. It might sound crazy, but I love driving, and I love driving a manual transmission. So I would go stick all the time with anything I was looking at. I'm willing to be slower if that means I can get the car in a manual transmission. And I am still like that to a sense. But for me, and I talk about this a lot, working at Audi, getting introduced to a lot of different cars, especially the German ones, and how great their technology is over there, it's going to come down to three main points for me. And those points to me are going to be personal preference, what kind of car is it, and what are your goals with the car. The third one to me is very important because I've found out more along the years, but I'll get to that in a minute. First one, personal preference. Have you driven a manual transmission before? Do you enjoy driving one? Just because you're buying a fast car doesn't mean you're going to enjoy a manual transmission even more. You have to enjoy driving one day in and day out. And that's going to come down to what's your commute like. When you go to work or you go to school, do you sit in a lot of traffic? Do you have no traffic? If you have a manual transmission, you probably don't want to be taking a long hour-and-a-half drive in traffic. I've done it in this. It's not a fun time. And those are things that you have to think about when you're buying one of these cars. Is it your only car? That's another thing. If it's not your only car, send it with the manual transmission. But if it is your only car, that's something to think about. And, go out there and drive a few different cars. First off, learn how to drive a stick before you go to a dealership and start driving stuff, because you don't want to be that guy in there that doesn't know what he's doing and is making a fool of himself. Try to find a friend with one that's willing to give you a little bit of a lesson, test it out in a parking lot, get a feel for it, and then go out there if you do like driving it. And typically, if you are a car enthusiast of any kind, you're probably going to enjoy driving a manual transmission because it's all part of the enjoyment, like I mentioned earlier. So that's going to be something that I think might sway you sometimes. Again, but that's where it comes into, it depends on the car. And the reason I bring that up is, if you're looking at something like the WRX, and I'm talking the actual WRX, not the STI, because it's only offering a manual transmission. If you're looking at a newer WRX, 15 and above, the older ones, a lot of them only came in a stick. So if you're looking at a newer one per se, or something along those lines, if you're looking at a Mustang, if you're looking at a Camaro, or if you're looking at BMWs or Audis, anything like that, anything that has both options, where, like I said, the STI only comes in one option. So if you're looking at cars with both options, this is where it's going to be crucial. Does that car come with a good manual transmission? And hear me out on this. And does it come with a good automatic transmission? The reason I bring that up is because, for instance, if you're looking at a WRX 2015 and above, they come in either a CVT or they come in a manual. The CVTs, they're not that great. They have a very weird feeling when you drive them. If you've ever driven a CVT of any kind, you know exactly how they work. They're belt driven, and basically if you hit the gas hard enough and you take it to red line, it'll just hold it at red line until it lets off. It doesn't, or until you let off. It doesn't shift between gears or anything like that. It's constant power the whole time, which has its perks for some things, I guess. If you're driving around in like a base model Civic, yeah, CVT is probably great because it's just allowing power to get to the wheels all the time. It's fantastic if you're looking to accelerate in something like that that's not particularly fast. If you're looking at something that was designed to be fast, again, it's not great. Like, my mother has a Forester XT, and it's a great car, and I wouldn't want one of those in a stick, I don't think. But it's the same engine as the WRX of that generation, and it's good for what it is, but it's not a performance car. Yes, it has extra power, which is, why she bought it. She wanted something with a little more kick to it, but it's not a performance car. So there's no need to really buy that in a stick. There's no need to really make one in a stick. It's not designed for that. The WRX was designed to be a performance sedan. It was designed to be something that you could basically get your groceries with and then take to the track on the weekends if you wanted to. That's what it's there for. That's why it has that option. That's why, in my opinion, the manual transmission is the better way to go. Same with, like, again, I have very limited options here, but if you go Camaro, Mustang, I'm just trying to think of cars that have both options. And I've driven automatic Mustangs. They're all right. There's no real thrill factor there. It's just a fast V8. Same with the Camaro. It's just a fast V8. There's no, that's a traditional transmission. There's really, and I'm sure I'll get hosed somewhere along the way for that. I believe it's a very traditional transmission. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I believe it's a fairly traditional automatic. There's just no real thrill with that. It's just a fast car. It just goes fast in a straight line. If that's what you like, go for it, and that's where it comes down to personal preference. Now, and the reason I wanted to bring up the fact that some of the cars have bad manual transmissions is because working at Audi, if you have driven or if you've seen any of them around, the 2017 and above A4s, for example, those are rare in a manual, but they do come in one. And they also come in it's not a DSG, I don't remember the exact term for it, but it is a dual clutch transmission. So I think it's considered still a DSG at that point. I know the A4s were different. I haven't worked there in a long time, so again, another point, correct me in the comments. But anyway, it is a dual clutch transmission, and the automatic feels faster than the manual, which is not typical amongst cars. Usually the manual feels faster. It isn't necessarily faster, but it feels faster. The automatic in the A4s is actually faster. It makes all the difference in the world. Just putting your foot to the floor and rowing between the gears on a manual, it feels sluggish. Like, I love manuals. I should be standing up for them. It feels sluggish. It doesn't feel like this crazy fast car. So that's where it's going to kind of come down to the car. And it's going to depend. Drive them both. See what works better for you. And you might end up coming out with a manual. You might end up coming out with an automatic. It all depends on what you want at that point. And that's why it comes down to the car. Again, another example of that would be the Golf R. The Golf R in a manual transmission is a phenomenal car. It's fast. It's fun. It's all-wheel drive. It's great. But, and here's where it comes into the point I was making about what are your goals with the car. If you buy a manual transmission over an automatic, over the DSG, you have to upgrade the clutch to upgrade the power. So that's where you're going to need to do your research and figure out what is going to be better for my end goal. I didn't know that going into it. Alec, who you've seen on the channel, I'll link the video up here where I drove his DSG GTI. That car is a blast. And again, I prefer the manual, but I think I'd go auto with this one. It's just a blast to drive day in and day out. And he said, listen, if I bought the stick, I would have had to upgrade the clutch to make this kind of power. And with a Subaru, you can do the same modifications. And again, it varies between the manufacturers. You can do the same modifications he did to his GTI. His GTI is a lot faster than my STI. And it's not just because it's an automatic, but it's because it comes down to all the mechanical stuff, engine, transmission, all that stuff. But the point I'm making is that if he had wanted to do the same modifications he did, which wasn't anything crazy, he did a downpipe, he did a catback, he did an intake, front mount. I can't remember if he did anything else to it. Obviously did a tune, but that would have needed a clutch. The stock clutch on those cars can't handle really much more than the stock power output. And I don't know how common that is. I haven't really heard of it happening anywhere else, But that's something to look into. That's something to be aware of. Are your cars going to be able to handle the plans that you have for them? If I had bought a Golf at the time and I had looked at them briefly before buying this car, I would have never known that. I would have just gone out and been like, yeah, sure, it's a Golf R. It'd be great. It's going to be able to handle all the power I put in. It's made by Audi. It can handle it, no problem. It can't. And those are just things you're going to have to look into. So, you know, I'm hoping this video is kind of helpful. I feel like it was kind of all over the place. It's tough for me to really explain this when I'm so biased. I'm trying to be in the middle here. I'm trying to be Switzerland, but at the same time, I am just very biased towards the manual transmission. I love them. I think they're great, and I love driving them. But, you know, there are times when the automatic is the better choice, and it's going to come down to those three things. Personal preference, what kind of car is it, and what are your end goals with the car. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'm hoping this was helpful. I'm going to review this video and see what happens. I might even have to remake it. We don't know. So if you see this video posted, you know I was satisfied with it. If you see another one, if you see one without, you're not even going to see it without this, because I would just leave it out. Anyway, hoping the video was helpful. Be on the lookout for the videos coming up. I'm trying to get back onto the regular upload schedule of every Sunday and Wednesday. So hopefully we have some good stuff coming out. Max has a little surprise for us. Max, if you're watching this, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for the build. It's going to be fun, and I think you guys are going to love it. So it's something a little different, and I'm really stoked for it. So I'm excited for him to, he's just picked it up, and I'm excited to do it. It's a little out of the ordinary. It's going to be a little Frankenstein, but I think that's going to be part of the fun. So be on the lookout for that, and I guess I'll catch you guys in the next video. Scooch out.